Blessed are the peacemakers. Are you towing the path of peace or you are towing the path of war? When Christ returns and he asks you about the war that is going on around the war is not in one spot. So let me not just call one a particular spot, but whichever one the Lord have called you and ask you, what will be your answer? That you support the war or you support the peace? Then when the Lord asks you, what did you do to bring peace? That peace may be between husband and wife who are at war with each other. Or it may be between the parents and their children. In your own home. It may be between towns. It may be between villages. It may be between cities. It may be between states. That war may be raging between nations and tribes. The war may be raging between countries. Just as several countries are at war with one another, and some of the wars may be subtle, it may be smoldering underneath as if there is peace, but there is no peace, but war, and great war is going on. It may be cyber war. And that brings me to something before about the war that is going on even in Nigeria, for example. The war that has been going on since 1966. And a lot of people believe the war is over, but there is no peace among them. Because there are still people who are still at war. There was a prophecy that was given to me, which I did not give. At the time, I said that if I give the prophecy, that people will exploit it and then destabilize Nigeria before Nigerians has a chance to speak about what their future entails. There are some elder statesmen that have approached me about the issue of the destruction of the constitution, which is the main cause of all the problems that is happening in Nigeria, and how unjust the constitution, the man-made constitution that was imposed upon them by the military. And my response to them was that Nigerians need to have a say on that, because it is not just only about the elite, and they have to choose whether they still want to be under the tutelage of such a constitution, because it was not a constitution. A constitution is formed by the people themselves who exert their will to be able to be under the tutelage of such a social contract. And where the people did not make the will, no matter how some men might have rationalized it, and whatever reason that was presented does not make it one, because for those that are passed through law school and understand the law, that the contract must have the assent of the parties to a contract. And where there is no assent, the contract does not exist. Assent meaning to agree to the terms of the contract that is mutually negotiated by the parties to that particular contract. And I'm not going to get into the laws of contract, but I just use that to connect to what the Lord has said, which we gave you in the last Sabbath regarding the word of the Almighty God in the book of Numbers in chapter 30 from verse 1 to 2. That even in the constitutional democracy, and even in the government of the people, by the people, for the people, that those that represent the people ought to also live to the terms of what they have already professed and what the people agreed in granting them the power and the authority to represent them. That anything to the contrary is not the government of the people, when the Lord had already declared in the past years, when he had declared about the usurpers, those that take and stripe and demolish the will of the people. Even in America today, we are facing a challenge in the sense that we do not know that whether the government will also be open tomorrow, because the leaders decided to wait until the last minute when they had a whole year to find a way to pressure the representative of the people into agreeing to something that is contrary to the promise they have made to the people. They had all the time to do it, but they chose not to do it. And they waited until the last minute in order to force their own will against the will of the people. And of course, when this kind of things happen, there is a harm. There is a social harm. And people are injured or damaged without recourse, because at the end of the day, they continue to impose their power and their will upon the people. Imagine God, who has made the world and has created all humans and have laid the foundations of nations, decides to use the same measure to measure for them. Like those that, for example, in Nigeria, that the Lord had revealed, and I know at the time I said that I'm not going to share the discussion that some leaders in Nigeria, some elders, tribal elders, their kings, and the representatives are in the meetings they have had against the Igbos at the time. And that was long, even the meeting took place way before Peter Obi came to surprise them. But so this particular measure has been going on since 1966. When young people decided to act and take matters into their own hand to chart their own future or a new course for what they have constituted to be a country among different nations coming together. And when there are representatives of people from all the tribes, major tribes in Nigeria, and even minor tribes,